Yo, what's good, y'all? It's Project Man. Today, it is going to be more of a talking, I don't need these headphones. It's actually going to be more of a talking segment of the show that we run over here, posting content every single day, like, comment, and subscribe. It's going to be about the WWE's Brock Lesnar. No, I'm kidding. Not kidding, but it's going to be about WWE Raw. Okay, so last night was Monday Night Raw. It was a really good show, man. A really good show. You could even say great show. A lot of good things coming out of it. I'm going to mention the little things. They had a good match between Penta and Dragon Lee for the Intercontinental Championship. So that is a great start for the Intercontinental Championship, consider around Dominic's waist. No offense to Dominic, but the title was kind of dying because he wasn't really doing anything with it. In his first run, he was, but in his second run, he kind of wasn't really doing anything with it. So that was the much needed revitalization, if that's even a word, of the damn title. So Penta did a great job there. We kind of got our rematch for AJ Lee and Becky Lynch, I guess, is now most likely going to be official for Mania, considering Becky came out there and attacked her. So that was her mini return. You know what I'm saying? Just a minute return there. But it was a situation of, she came out there and attacked her, hit her with the belt. So I'm guessing we're getting that rematch at WrestleMania. Other small things that happened on the show is the vision of Austin Theory and Logan Paul were told by Paul Heyman that in order for the vision to be like really taken seriously, they need to get some belts. They need to get some tag titles. So they made it official, not at WrestleMania, but for next week's on the Raw. I don't know if it's going to be shenanigans or anything that's going to interfere to maybe get them in Mania. I'm not sure, but it's going to be Logan Paul and Austin Theory versus the Usos for the tag team championship. So we'll see how that plays out and unfold. Now, as far as the little things on the show, I think that is about it. As far as anything like kind of noteworthy, taking a look at, there was like the Americanos went at it, you know what I'm saying? And even, Javon had a little brief backstage promo, a little bit still kind of, I guess you could say, Kofi trying to, I guess, recruit him. I don't know where that story's going, but still not exactly sure what Javon's doing for Mania, even though he did congratulate, Dragon Lee for going out there and kicking ass, even though he didn't win, going out for kicking ass, you know what I'm saying, with Penta. So maybe Javon could be in that Intercontinental Championship scene. We don't know. But now let's get into the meat of the matter. Now, the show started off with what I felt was the best part of the show, and that was that boy Seth Rollins. He comes out there with his mask, man, but this time he comes out with a microphone, one of these, He comes out with a microphone this time. We finally actually hear words from Seth Rollins and his little mask, man. I call them the Foot Ninjas because they look like the Foot Ninjas from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with all these black hoodies and everybody's covered up and their identities being shielded and all this other stuff. So he comes out there basically calling Paul Heyman fat and that it was so great when he got to just stomp his fat head into the mat, into the canvas and make him bleed and send him to the hospital, and how that the vision is on notice. He doesn't care if it's Austin Theory. He don't care if it's Logan Paul. He don't care if it's Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker. Even if you're on the shelf, you're not safe. You know what I'm saying? And Paul Heyman's definitely not safe and all this other stuff. So he was basically saying that he's coming for all you motherfuckers. And yeah, he ain't playing no games. And he you know what I'm saying, locked in twin. And he going to do his thing and do it well to the best of his ability. You know what I'm saying? Like how we do on the show. But anyway, that being said, that brought out Paul Heyman, who came to an enormous amount of great boos from the crowd. I think they were in San Antonio. Shout out to San Antonio. Came out to a chorus of boos as they look at a disheveled Paul Heyman. Because Paul Heyman will usually do that to kind of sell more of the situation. He'll kind of get his gray hair and really sell, let his gray hair grow out and show he's stressed. And that's what he did with the bulging red eyes and the white beard and all this other stuff. And he's coming out there like, that little kid after he just got whooped. And that's how Paul Heyman's coming out with a face like this. And he, Paul Heyman had over the weeks, especially to Adam Pearce when they were doing that little feud with Braun Breaker and Paul Heyman getting under Adam Pearce's skin and stuff like that. His whole thing was F around and find out, and he would even get on the phone and call a higher power. We don't know if there's The Rock or whoever, but he would call that higher power or whatever to get stuff done that's ruling over Adam Pearce. And one of the things he'd always said was FAFO, which is, fuck around and find out. And he said it here. He was like, Seth Rollins, oh, I'm sorry. The crowd also, I meant to say, was chanting, fuck you, Heyman. They were chanting that and they bleeped it. And Seth said, I don't need to tell the people how I feel about you because they're already doing it, because that was after they said F you, Heyman. And then Paul Heyman was saying, I'm sorry that I interrupt your, your hateful promo. I'm not coming out here ruining anything, because here's the thing. You F with me, now I'm going to F with you. You F me, now I'm going to F with you. And you know what happens when you F with Paul Heyman. It's F-A F-O, F-A, F-O, F-A, F-O, F-A, F5, which is bringing out Brock Lesnar, who, obviously that's his finishing move, is the F5. So, Brock Lesnar comes out there as the beast he is. It's always funny seeing Brock Lesnar with a man bun. I don't know why, but even though he been had that, but I don't know why I'm still not used to him wearing that man bun. It's so crazy. But he comes out there and looks about as beastly as he always does. The guy's genetics and just, he's a monster of a man for sure. The guy's physique goes crazy. Even at, I think it's like 47 or 48. It's crazy physique still. But yeah, he comes out there like the beast he is. And Paul, Heyman. Obviously we know Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman, their relationship, Paul Heyman is his advocate, so obviously he can call in Brock, the big guns, when he needs to get revenge on somebody. And so Brock Lesnar comes down there, and all those masked men, I think, or the foot ninjas, as I call them, I don't know if there were like maybe 20, 30 of them. I don't even know. I'm just going to say, like, let's say for arguments, let's say there was like 20 of them out there. So all 20 of them, as Brock is coming to the ring, and he's taking his time too. He's not even immediately going down there. He's taking his time, kind of circling the ring a little bit. And then he just proceeds to deliver all types of suplexes. German suplexes to the floor, overhead belly to belly suplexes to the floor. Probably a Saito suplex came in there at some point. A Northern Lights suplex. There was literally a guy, and I feel bad for him. I think I might even saw him on Twitter, XX Twitter, where you can follow DJ's Prodigy. I think I saw one of the guys post that he was the guy that was the foot ninja that got dropped on the freaking staircase, because Brock had threw one guy just up and over his head into the barricade like he didn't give a fuck. And then he dropped one guy right onto the steps. Like he just literally picked him up and just dropped him right onto the edge of the steps, or like one of the steps on the stairs. And I'm just like, bro, that was filthy. And then he yelled at, so 5 of the foot ninjas ran off just at Brock doing his primal scream. He does a, ah! You know what I'm saying? And that scared 5 of them away, so he didn't even had to do anything to them. And then Brock, I think, hit like a German suplex and an F5 on the last 2 remaining foot ninjas that were in the ring protecting Seth Rollins. So then Brock Lesnar stares down face to face with Seth Rollins, CrossFit Jesus himself, Seth Rollins. And he stares face to face with him. And then the lights go out. And we obviously know, it's not like The Undertaker or anything. And it's funny, they've been doing lights out entrances for a couple of people now. They did it for Trick Williams. They've been doing it with him a little bit on SmackDown as far as where they black out the lights and then their music hits. But it wasn't Trick. It wasn't Alistair. I almost said Malachi. It wasn't Alistair Black. When the lights went out. Oh, it's time, baby. Dun 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 dun. Woo dun 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 dun. Oh, it's my boy Femi, and he is the ruler. Dun dun. Oh, dun dun. Femi comes out. They actually did a part where his song played and they paused it. Like it was like dun 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 dun. Stop. Dun dun. Like that actually hit. That ain't gonna lie. That pause actually hit a little bit. And so obviously, my boy Femi, doing his entrance. Hoo, hoo, ha! He's, what I'm saying, doing the little bounce he does to the ring. Kind of like Brock Lesnar in a sense, because Brock does the like jumping in place, and Oba kind of does his own version of that when you think about it. He does, his little dominant walk to the ring. And it's funny because when Brock Lesnar was facing off with Seth, the crowd was actually chanting, holy shit. So they actually didn't seem like they would have been against a Brock Lesnar-Seth match, which before Oba came out, I actually thought that's what the match they were going with. I'm like, oh, well, I guess we're getting Brock and Seth. I mean, it's not like it don't make sense. And it has been a minute since we've seen that match, so I guess I can't really hate. Even if I would have preferred the Oba match, I was like, well, I can't really hate too much on this because, I mean, it's still a big match. And it's better than LA Knight, and I like LA Knight, but I just, we all kind of figured he'd just lose that match, unfortunately. So I was like, okay, Brock and Seth. And then Oba comes out, and I was in the car, by the way, because I was at work driving back, because I be delivering stuff at my job. So I was driving back to the work facility at my job. And I think that's partly why my throat feels a little weird, because I was like, ah! Like I was just freaking yelling. And I think that's probably why sorry if that got in your ear. But I think that's probably why my voice in the inside, not on the out, like you hear it sounds fine, but in the inside, I feel like when you got that little crud in there, I don't know why, but anyway, that might have been from when I was freaking yelling at the fact that we're actually gonna I was in the car yelling and excited and filled with joy and thrill at the fact, euphoria, if you will, at the fact that we're actually going to get the match that we all wanted, we all preferred to see at Mania, and that is Oba Femi versus Brock Lesnar. So Oba Femi, and everybody, me included, excited as hell as Oba Femi gets in the ring looking like the monster of a man that he is, even bigger than Brock Lesnar and taller than Brock Lesnar. And he comes out there, and the crowd's doing the Oba, like how they did Goldberg back in the day. The Oba, like a Goldberg, you know what I'm saying? Oba. And then they even added to it. They was like, Oba, who? Oba, who? So Brock, I mean, you know, you can see Brock looking around the arena. He's like probably going, okay, you know, there's something to this guy. But Brock, shout out to Brock. He really sold that kind of like worried expression, because he kind of was like, you know, looking like this, a little wide-eyed, like, oh shit, like, you know, I didn't expect this guy, because last week, you know, they were doing the whole Brock Lesnar has an open challenge for anybody that wants to face him at WrestleMania, and Oba Femi has clearly answered the challenge, and Seth Rollins, you know, maybe they could play into the fact that maybe Seth, because I think the whole thing with the segment is Seth anticipated that Brock would come out, so he probably said, hey, Oba, here's your, you know, platform to get this match with Brock, because Seth walks up to Brock, and Brock is kind of like going after him, and Seth's like, nah, I'm good, like, you know, he rolls out the ring like, nah, this ain't my fight, and when that distracts Brock momentarily enough to where Oba shoves him freaking in the air, catches him in that powerbomb position, and then doesn't do a last ride, but he does that similar to the last ride. He like elevates you a little bit before he just powerbombs you. He'll like boost you up some to get more air and deliver his fall from grace powerbomb onto Brock Lesnar. Michael Cole says the holy shit, you know what I'm saying, which was great. And Oba didn't just point to the Mania sign like, hey, I want to face you at Mania. He stepped on the Brock Lesnar's chest and pointed at the WrestleMania sign like, hey, I want to accept your challenge. Like, I'm the ruler. You know what I'm saying? I want to face you at WrestleMania. And this is what we all want. Brock Lesnar's freaking, you know, squirming as he's on the ground. You know, Oba's got his foot on him. And, you know, Brock leaves the ring in shock and just like, holy shit, you know, this freaking guy's just come in and just throwing his ass up in the air and just powerbombed him. And so, yeah, that was great. That was a great piece of business. Like I said, to me, that was the best part of the show. Oba Femi versus Brock Lesnar. They made it later in the night official that it will be Brock Lesnar versus Oba Femi at WrestleMania. Now, this is the match we wanted. Now, the only way that this makes any type of sense, now that we are finally getting the match we wanted at WrestleMania, the only match anybody wanted for Brock at WrestleMania, hopefully Oba Femi wins. I don't think this match, because it's like that, it's the rule, it's easily marketable, you know, the ruler versus the beast, you know, two of these big guys going at it. I don't think this match will go longer than 10 minutes, because it's gonna be, let's be honest, this is gonna be a fun match as far as it's really just gonna be power moves. They're not gonna do any lockups for real, you know, and maybe a little, if they even do a lockup, maybe once, but it's not really going to be a test of power and strength and all that. No, it's literally going to be just jump straight, dropping each other with suplexes and throwing each other. Like, it's going to be fun. It's going to be one of those fun car crash matches that don't need to go that long, because you're just getting over the fact that it's two beastly nature guys that are hella athletic going at it. So that's going to be a fun match. And the only way, like I said, it turns out right is if Oba Femi wins, because this is Brock's time to put somebody over. Brock has won so many times and has been established as a beast, a multi-time world champion. So this is overly the time for him to put over a young guy in Oba. I think Oba's in his late 20s. So yeah, this is the perfect time to put over a bigger guy than Brock Lesnar and a younger guy than Brock Lesnar in Oba Femi, who's already, as you can clearly hear, well over with the crowd. So he does need to win this match. I really hope he wins this match and avenges. And it's funny because Kofi even tweeted, "Avenge us," because, for those who don't know, Brock Lesnar has taken out all our brothers, whether it be my boy, my all-time favorite of all time, The Rock at WrestleMania or at SummerSlam 2002. He took out Kofi Kingston when he beat him in like 7 seconds for the WWE title. He beat Big E for the WWE title. So all of our brothers have gotten beaten up by Brock Lesnar. And he usually takes the WWE Championship too, right? Rock, Kofi, Big E. He pins us and takes our WWE Championship, He even, to some degree, did it with Bobby Lashley when he got it from him at the Chamber. So, yeah, all of our brothers usually have to get beat. And on top of that, for their WWE Championship by Brock Lesnar. So, hopefully, that's why I was so excited for this as well, because I know a lot of our brothers have gotten beat by Brock and for their WWE Championship. So, Oba, please avenge us, my brother. We rooting for you. I've been rooting for you since NXT, but we're overly rooting for you now. So hopefully he wins that match, and it's just going to be a fun match, where, like I said, Brock puts someone over. I think Brock is strong enough to where he can lose that match and he'll be fine. But yeah, that was exciting. One of the, probably that will go down as one of the greatest openings of a Monday Night Raw of all time. Like the way this, as far as the way the show started, one of the greatest ways to kick off a Monday Night Raw ever in history. I'm already putting it in that all-time great list, but very exciting opening. Glad we got some dialogue from Seth, and now we finally start kicking up the WrestleMania feel. You know what I'm saying? Oba and Brock having that one interaction of them just, Oba powerbomb and Brock already made it feel like, okay, now we're getting into Mania season, because that type of segment that they did, that piece of business they did there, that is the type of stuff that we should be feel, that level of excitement we got when we heard Oba coming out. That's how we supposed to feel going into Mania, man, about all these segments. But anyway, shout out my boy Oba. Last thing I'm going to say is I just think it's really cool that Oba has gotten over as quick as he has, which is obviously because he's had television time on NXT, so some of that energy has carried over to the main roster crowd, and then it just, as it carries over to some of that main roster crowd, it goes throughout the entire arena as time goes on and as he gets more over and he's more imposing. So they're doing really well with Oba, and the only way to keep doing well with him is to beat him against Brock, and we'll be good. You know what I'm saying? Or have him beat Brock. I say beat him against Brock. Have him beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, and we will just be swell, keeping that great momentum going. Oba Femi being this dominant beast who's beating people up quickly, and just packing some of the best up. I mean, that's how we need to book Oba. I mean, he looks that way to be booked, and he has enough charisma to where he's not one of these like boring giants. He actually has charisma, and he's fun to watch and everything. So anyway, moving on. I think it's really cool how fast he's gotten over. And Oba has not even been on the main roster for more than like 2 months, and we're already wanting to see him against Brock Lesnar. Think about it. You usually have to take a year or two to really establish and get a guy over as a star. But the fact that Oba Femi's already gotten this over with the crowd, with the 2 months he's been on the main roster, and they're already wanting to see him and Brock, is crazy. Like I said, usually you take a year or two to get a guy really over for a Brock Lesnar match to be a thought, but the fact that he's only been there for a short time and we've already been clamoring for this big match is a testament to just how good Oba is and has been. But anyway, that's enough on Oba, enough glazing. The next part of the show, last part of the show, main event of the show was Roman Reigns and CM Punk confrontation, or you can say round 3 in their verbal battle. Though I will say beforehand, Roman was in the black, I don't know if it was truck, but he pulled up in the black, car that he was in, and the Usos meet him there as he comes out the car, and he's like, hey, Roman is saying, hey, attention all bloodline members, the little PA system, like it's the faculty and staff or something like that, getting an important announcement or something like that, students in a high school. Attention all bloodline members, all cousins, this man CM Punk has disrespected my father, your uncle. So that means that before and after WrestleMania, you have permission to do whatever you want to Punk. But on that weekend, on that day that is WrestleMania, he's all mine. Like, back off, leave him alone. But before and after, you can do whatever you want to him. But on that day that we have that WrestleMania weekend, leave him to me. He's all mine. So then there was another backstage segment, old school bloodline style, where they were in the back and sitting on the sofa and talking it out. That was really cool to see that again. And Roman said, Punk got what he deserved. I'm glad y'all, basically, punched him and stuff like that. And Jay was like, we still need to get that apology. And Roman said, as far as I'm concerned, y'all need to get that apology. I don't need that apology. You know what I'm saying? For what he said about him burying Roman next to his dad. Roman's like, I don't need that apology, but y'all do. You know what I'm saying? And Roman was also saying, I don't care about anybody calling me a part-timer, because as long as my kids know I'm a full-time dad, that's all that matters. And that's the best thing that any superstar can say for their legacy, because, their dad wasn't around a whole lot. Being the Usos, their father Rikishi, he was on the road a lot, and Roman's father, obviously being a wrestler, he was on the road a lot, so they couldn't really see each other as much. So Roman was like, I'm gonna make that different for my kids. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, that's what they established in the backstage segments of the show. Then we got on to the confrontation, and I'm not gonna go down word for word, but Roman and Punk came out there, and they both, did their usual cookage of each other, even though they took a while for them damn entrances. They cooked each other for a minute, Roman saying it's his show, and that, the reason why Punk is in the main event of WrestleMania is because of him, and how the fact that, Punk basically can't call himself the main event, because, when you just look at this year alone in 2026, as we're in March, you haven't main evented anything. You haven't main evented the Rumble. You didn't main event Elimination Chamber even in your own hometown. You haven't even main evented any of the house shows on the European tour. Like, you can't even main event house shows now. So don't think that, because you're a champion, that's the reason why I'm here. And all this other stuff. And the crowd at one point was chanting for CM Punk, and Roman was like, yeah, see, they want something from you. They're calling for you. The people want you to say, something important or whatever. And Punk said, well, I was calling for you last week, but you sent your cousins. I think he said you sent your cousins because you're too much of a chicken shit or something like that. And Punk, I think, was saying, because they basically stood on business, the Usos, for saying what he said about his dad, Punk admittedly was like, you know what, I deserve to get punched and stuff like that. And it seems like the Usos, they're willing to actually, stand up for themselves and all this other stuff. So, who really is the tribal chief, you know what I'm saying? And Roman laughs like that, and he's like, stop all that garbage. You're very repetitive. You're trite. You're saying the same old shit over and over again, because how many times have I had to hear this over the last 5 years of, who's the real tribal chief? Because, he's had to hear that before. And he's like, basically quit it with that garbage, and how that's not the case. And there was even at one point where Roman was saying that he's not going to let CM Punk's mind games get the best of him. We know he's one of the best on the mic, but at the end of the day, he's not going to let Punk get in his head. That's why he's not retaliating for what he said about his dad, because he's not going to let Punk get in his head. And so it was even to a point where Roman was like, until you can say something that actually phases me, I'm out of here. And Punk stops him from leaving the ring by way of just standing in his way. And even when Roman tried to get out from the ropes, Punk got right there in front of him. He said, hey, this is my show, and I tell you when you can come and when you can leave. So, basically get your ass back in the ring. We ain't finished talking. You know what I'm saying? So that was nice. And I'm trying to think if there was anything else said that I need to highlight. I know I know what happened to end the segment, but I was just trying to think if there was anything else that I needed to say before the ending of this thing. I don't think it was. Yeah, I don't think it was. Yeah, was it? I don't know. I don't think there was anything else said, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm glad I took time to think, because Punk did say, I was trying to think some of the stuff Punk said. Yeah, Punk said to Roman Reigns that, I've noticed you've been calling me Phil a lot as some way of disrespect. Well, I'm not going to call you, he said, Titty Tiyaki or whatever your real name is, because, those, Samoan names are, kind of, unique. So he was making fun of how their names sound. And that was what he called Titty Tiyaki or whatever your real name is. And he's like, I'm most certainly not going to call you Joe, because I think that is Roman's real name. I'm most certainly not going to call you Joe, because that's a disrespect to a Samoan I actually, have love for and I'm friends with, referring to our boy Samoa Joe. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to that boy Samoa Joe. So he said that in the promo. And then the last thing that was said, like I said, you got to watch the segment to get all of it, but I'm just giving you the gist. Roman then said to Punk at some point that, oh, you want to talk about me, being a part-timer, whatever. I've heard it all before. It's the same material. How about this? You learn what the top dollar, superstars do in this company, ask your wife. And, that got a pop, obviously, because he mentioned his wife. But also, when you think about it, it works because his wife is technically a part-timer, too. So, basically, Are you going to get on her ass? Because, like, she a part-timer, too. So you can't rip me apart for not being here all the time. But last thing that was said to, from Roman to CM Punk was, you're an embarrassment to this company. You know, you're a tryhard that's, you know, basically, you know, an embarrassment to this company, because at the end of the day, we all know that you're not better looking than me. You know, you're not faster than me. You're not stronger than me. You know, basically saying, you know, you're not as good as me. And whether it's you, you know, that title, everything you have, you know, all that you are, it's an embarrassment to this company because you're old. And that was enough for Punk to lay the first physical contact, and by way of punching Roman in the goddamn face, and left him sitting there. And then the officials and Adam Pearce and all that, they get in to break up the fight, or to stop anything from further happening. And Roman's just laughing at him, and basically he talks into the camera and says, like, who's playing the mind games now? You know what I'm saying? Basically saying, I'm able to get under your skin now, you know, whatever the case may be. So that's how it went off the air. And it was a fine back and forth, but I even said it in the moment, it was definitely one of their weaker back and forths, as far as, like, I thought the last two they did knocked it out of the park. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like the one they did this week, it was fine. It was like, it was, you know, solid back and forth, but especially with the way it ended with him calling him old, and that was like the thing that sent him over the line, rather than what we kind of thought, which is him mentioning Larry, which is his dog that is deceased or recently passed a couple months ago. We thought he was going to bring, because, you know, he brought up his dead dad, so we thought, okay, he's going to bring up his dead dog, because that would be like a natural way to progress and elevate the feud, right? I'm going to mention someone or something that died that you cared about deeply. And so we thought that's what was going to happen, and that would be, you know, leading to the physical contact. And I'm glad there was some physical contact, because we all knew after the mention of the dead dad, it's like, there's no way we can have a normal conversation after that. So I'm glad at least some physicality happened, but I thought the closing segment could have been better, as far as, like, you know, the saying he's old. Like, here's what I would have preferred, right? It'd be different if he said, you know, basically, I mean, you know, when you look at the time left of your career, you know, you look at that hourglass, you know, there's not much time you have left when you look at that hourglass. You know, you got way more time behind you than you do ahead of you. And, like, you know, a guy like that can't be leading this company because you're too old. Like, he could have said something like that, and then, you know, kind of somehow tied that in to where he's like, yeah, I'm going to leave you old. How about this? At WrestleMania, I'm going to leave you old, dead and buried, just like your dog Larry. Like, if he'd have said some shit like that, then I would have seen Punk punching him and all that good stuff. You know, that would have been more of a thing I could believe would set you off. Like, damn, he mentioned your dead dog that you cared about deeply and you had for, like, you know, 13, 14 years or whatever it was. So that I would have understood. But him just saying he was old, I don't think that was enough to send him over the edge. Now, granted, maybe that's the story. Like, damn, like, that was enough to get under Punk's skin. So maybe he doesn't have as thick of skin as he, you know, thinks, because the fact that the age was the only thing to get him, you know, is crazy. So I don't know if that's the story they're going with, or whether it's just that just wasn't a good closer. But thought it was definitely the weakest out of their three exchanges. But still, overall, a very good show. A lot of good stuff in it. I was trying to make sure I covered everything, so that's why this was a little long. I usually try to make these no more than like 20 minutes, but this went almost 30 because I had to get all of my thoughts, all the juices flowing out. You know what I'm saying? And I did it off the top. No notes, no nothing. So, hey, man, watch the segments back and let me know if you enjoy Monday Night Raw. How hyped and excited are you for WrestleMania? You let me know how you thought about certain segments of the show, like the Oba Femi Brock stuff, the Roman Reigns Punk stuff. At least we're really starting to get better, like I say, hyped towards WrestleMania, as we're like literally like a month away. So I'm glad to see that improvement, because I said before even the show started that we need to start seeing a lot of heat kick up as we're getting like a month before WrestleMania. We need to really know what matches we're getting and really start building towards them, and that's what they did. So good on them for that. But anyway, let me know what other videos you want me to see and react to. And at the end of the day, what I say it is what it is, what's going to be is this product G continue to come out with the content, the videos, the bangers time and time again for you guys. Doing my thing, doing it well. Work around time and ever put into this channel, making sure this is the best year possible. And we only build from this point on this channel. Just keep doing our thing and doing it well. Notification bell need to be on before you go. Like, comment, subscribe, and that's all you need to know. That's the vibe that DJ's